Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Schmoozing with Avi, Season 2, Episode 6. And today I'm joined with a extremely special guest, someone I'm so thankful to join me here, Mutti Pogrow. Mutti was actually my madrich in Reshit while I was there in Mashana Aleph. We spent Corona together, it was all good fun. And today we've got such an exciting episode because we're going to talk music, we're going to talk Emuna, Hashkafa, life, happiness, Emes, learning with a Rebbe, like having a role model, all these different things. These are all good things that Mutti's going to go into. So yeah, Mutti, take us back. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're joining us here today.
So hello everyone. So first of all, it's my biggest zechus to be schmoozing with Avi. It's not just schmoozing, it's being able to really talk some stuff through that a lot of times people don't speak about, or people in yeshivas don't talk about,
Sure.
which is stuff that everybody in yeshivas refers to. All yeshivas, not only black and white, not only that, it's every type of person is where he's sitting and learning is a yeshiva. And it's everybody, every single person in the place that works in. We're going to go into it a little bit, but there's many stuff that me as growing up, I was, let's call it a troublemaker. Now, when I said troublemaker, next level, it wasn't just, making trouble and having the puppy eyes and the smile and the dimples to get away. It was using the brain to do it in a way that it would lead to other people, like Hashem Yishmol. But a lot of times with growing up, and I'm going to say having this list of being a counselor, not only madrich, I'm saying counselor, sorry. Now, counselor I'm referring to as American. Now, when American says counselor, it's not when a Brit says counselor. I learned that also because I went over to
counselor means a therapist to us, I guess.
I know. I went to a kid that was his madrich and here in a youth program, and I said to the father and the older brother, I'm his counselor. And they look at me like, our son doesn't go to therapy that we don't know about. And then they told me, and I realized. So a lot of stuff I'm going to say today's generation and all generations of just looking stuff from a different point of view, not just out of that square little box of everybody A, B, C, D, you have to go through the same thing. And it's first of all my zchus to hear and give a little bit of secrets about Avi, because a lot of times Avi's asking other people, but people don't get to hear the stuff about Avi. Well, Avi, don't cut this out, okay? I don't like
Everything's being cut.
I know. I don't
There's
like
no secrets allowed there.
No. So just a little thing I'm going to give about Avi. Avi said in the last one that, I'm not talking about you. I don't agree with it. He said that I'm just an Amma Aretz. I'm talking about Avi, what he said about himself. I'm just an Amma Aretz wearing black and white. I don't really know what I'm doing. Well, guys, it is not true. Okay. Avi knows very well. He has been working himself extreme and growing. And I could say that.
You can still be an Amoritz and you can grow within the Amoritz.
If somebody's a point where he says, I don't have where to grow, you know what he should do? He should run home, write a will, and lay down in bed.
Oh, this is true.
So just a little bit about myself. I was raised here in Rabbi Chemesh.
Just by the way, I think everyone's got to wish you Mazel Tov because you just recently got married. It's very sad that I couldn't join you for your wedding, but we've heard a lot about it. So Mazel Tov.
We missed you guys. Thank you. We should all share Simcha soon.
Oh, amazing. So when did you get married? Just quickly.
Actually 2 months ago exactly.
Wow.
The Hebrew date. Yates Kislev. No, I'm not a Chabadsker, even though that's a very Chabad date. Actually, my family roots many years go back. Many generations. We are actually from Chabad, from Shanghai. That's a different story. But yeah, I went to Zilberman. We didn't follow exactly Chabad roots. Let's call it like that. So yeah, that was just now, and slowly trying to get back into it and just trying to go to yeshiva. And yeah,
So I was going to say, so take us back to where we were all starting off. Take us back to your background. You were a little troublemaker, even with the dimples.
Yeah, so let's say when I was growing up, I started first grade when I was 4 years old. My birthday was on Tzom Gedalia, the day after Rosh Hashanah. So yeah, always the joke is you fast on my birthday, and my siblings said that they fast because I was born. We all know it. My birthday was on Yom Kippur. Nobody could eat because of me. But yeah, okay, that's how it starts. And I started first grade at a young age. So my We lived in Mechla. My mom was the imbayit there. It's a seminary in Yerushalayim. And then almost a year old, we moved to Ramat Beit Shemesh, where I lived here for almost 22 years. I'm amazing. I grew up here, but Ramat Beit Shemesh is I'm going to call it a very Anglo community. And so I didn't go to school here. I started first grade here for half a year in a school called Taras Eliyahu. Then I switched to Zilberman in the Old City. I don't know exactly how my family got to there, but my older brother was there. Also in the Old City were there. And I was there through 7 years till the middle of 8th grade. And I finished, and let's call it, there was many stops throughout the year where there was a lot of trouble and I got into, and I deserved it, by the way. My teachers suffered a lot more from me than I did from them. Growing up now, I could say it. That's true. And then the middle of 8th grade, it was good for both sides to finish.
Yeah.
And then the way it works in Zilberman, actually, was one part in the middle where my family went to America for a year.
Oh, wow.
To Austin, Texas. Yeah. And I was 8 years old in 4th grade, but after 2 months, I didn't have their school or learning or anything or friends. I was bored out of my mind. Now there's a huge argument. My siblings and my family claim that my older brother was 14 at the time, came back first, and I came back after. I think it was the opposite, but okay, we're not going to talk about that. Till this day, I guess I think I was always better. You know how it works. And then, so throughout the years, many times of, making all kind of trouble, being the smart trouble. And Baruch Hashem, I'm not saying it's a show from saying as also that sometimes it helped me understand kids. Hashem gave me a pretty good brain, Baruch Hashem, and a lot of times I was bored in class. And I had to keep myself busy. And when a kid has to keep himself busy, this kid's that Baruch Hashem could get more material of learning. But then there's the other side. It's sometimes more challenging. And it's called, I knew the words, I knew the streets of the Old City very well. And Aisha Torah, I spent there many times. I loved the food of the chef there. I was one of the first people, I think, that snuck into the new Aisha Torah building. I don't even know how I got in there. I remember when the Chorva opened, the big shul in the Old City, when it reopened, some form or fashion, we were, almost all the Zilberman kids were there when they did the huge fancy ceremony that they had like all these officers or whatever it is. Like somehow the kids from Zilberman happened to be there at that official. I don't know. And then the next morning, what Zilberman did, Zilberman is the name of the school I went to. It's called Aderet Eliyahu. But they go by Zilberman because that's the last name. That's in the Old City. That's the school where, by the way, if you're a parent, you want to send your child, except for the Great Learning System, they have school every single day of the year except of one day, Tisha B'Av, where you're not allowed to learn. Yes, also on Yom Kippur nights, because they daven Nusach HaGra. They go for the Nusach HaGra, and the davening is a lot shorter. But they don't do it because they want to finish fast. They actually do it because that's the halach. That's how they keep. That's the Masara. And yeah, every single day of the year we had school, vacation, no vacation. But we loved it because we had great trips and they gave us great prizes. And by the end of the day, I think we all know sitting home is boring. It's fun, a little bit of a break, whatever it is, but it gets boring. And no, I didn't drive in with a car on Shabbos to Yerushalayim. That's a question I get a lot. No, I didn't. And so then when I finished 8th grade, I was actually 12 because I was a little more advanced. And in Zilberman, the way they do it is they follow the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. I think it's Ben Tema, if I'm not mistaken, that it says that Ben Chamish leMikra, Ben Eser leMishnah, right? Ben Shlosh leMitzvos, and when he's 15, he starts Gemara. So they don't start Gemara before 9th grade. Now it's sad, it's shocking to that people. So they learn till the end of 5th grade. They learn Tanakh, and they do Chazar, then they learn Mishnayos, and then they start Tanakh in 9th grade, Gemara in 9th grade. So when I finished 8th grade, I wanted to go to a different yeshiva because I didn't want to travel, whatever was to Tzidim. But I thought I don't know how to learn Aramaic, because I went to school where they didn't learn any Gemara. So I went to do 8th grade in another place. I said, I'm going to do 1 more year, also because I was younger. I was only 12 when I finished 8th grade. Wow. Long story short, also there, I made it very interesting, let's call it like that. And I realized that each person, again, it's his way, but Baruch Hashem, I was able to get over that gap. And when I went into 9th grade Yeshiva Ktana after, I realized that I felt that I wasn't really lacking so much in the skills. I thought everybody was going to know how to speak Aramaic, that was going to blow my mind. It wasn't exactly that, and then slowly through Yeshiva Ktana, when you go to Yeshiva Ktana, where Yeshiva Ktana refers to 9th grade to 11th grade, somewhere till 12th grade, it was across the street from my house. Now, let's call it my reputation, I think that's the word, of staying in school and the school being across the street from my house was a very good recipe for a tragedy, let's call it like that. So on and off, I got some learning, some better, some not. But throughout the years, and then really what happened is at a certain point, looking back, I realized the yeshiva there let me be the cook in yeshiva for a month. Now it sounds like what, but I realized they actually did it to keep me in the yeshiva, because if I would go home, I wouldn't go. Looking back, like it's amazing what they found the place for me. And I didn't like some of them. I'm not going to say the names I used to call them because it's chatay ani mazkir hayom. But really, it's looks back about that karasatov they have to them, that thanks to them I'm wearing a kippah today. Like, because they had every reason in the world to throw me out, but it gave me a different aspect. Then after that, I think I was 16 or 17. And I was being a teenager, and I said, I know better than everybody. I'm not bored. And I sat home and I watched every single sport game in the world for a few months.
Yeah.
And I thought I knew better than him. And I was saying, of course it's great. Life is great. I'm not bored. Till a certain point, a few months after, I said, well, okay, who am I trying to prove to? It's my life. And I think the name of the person that introduced me to Rabbi Liff, who I'm going to speak a lot, who I was in Yeshiva for 4.5 years. I think his name was Yona. What's called? Sorry, just a second. I should remember this name. He's a redhead, Yoni Melamed. Okay. I think it's his name. And I went over and I met this amazing person, Rabbi Liv. And slowly, he started getting me into there. And I started going to there. They used to play volleyball once a week in the yeshiva. And it started as a joke as I went to volleyball. And slowly ended up learning the 3 Sdarim a day, Baruch Hashem, doing youth programs in between, getting a Rebbe. And assuming, because my parents at a certain point got divorced, I don't remember exactly what age it was. It was always 16 or 17. And Rabbi Liff was a Rebbe. I realized what I called my kotel, the Western Wall. That's what Rabbi Liff was to me, my Rebbe. Everything. I just go somewhere and talk. And throughout the years, like, I became very thankful to him. I ended up, Baruch Hashem, a year and a half ago, going to the Mir. Just that decision, and it changed my life. And it was crazy at the Dishma. I decided 4 days before Rosh Chodesh El that I want to go to the Mir.
Wow.
Something crazy. No. And I started going.
Wait, that was this year?
No, that was the year. It wasn't the year of, it was when you and Shana Bet. Yeah. So that was like when it was 6 months after Corona started. So I went to the Mir, and that was amazing. It was a little bit challenging during Corona there. And when I got Corona, then it was hard. Last winter's month, it was hard to get back into the system. But then in summer month, the decision to go, and really, it was amazing. And it was just Baruch Hashem, a decision in the head, the change. And slowly, then I started dating. I mean, I started dating before that, but I went during last summer bin Azmanim. So I met now who's my wife for the first time after Tisha B'Av. And I was dating her actually during camp. So I was in Camp Landau.
I was going to say, you want to touch on Camp Landau. Woo.
Shout out Rabbi Landau. Yeah.
The big Rebbe.
Yep. Whoever walks in Mesh Arim ever and looks at a picture should ask for the Mesh Arim Rebbe. Avi could tell us that story one time.
Great story.
And
so
during camp, and I was dating, and we went on some serious dates. Don't ever do this, but on our 3rd date, I had a really good friend that got married that night, and I was on a date. So my wife, and she was going to America actually for her friend's wedding in the middle of dating for a week. And this was not something that was recommended to do, but I suggested in a certain way. I went to the wedding. She waited in the car for a few minutes. I ran into my friend's wedding. I said, you know why I'm here fast? And I went out, and then we continued the date. So that was pretty interesting. And this was all happening the night before Color War Breakout, where I was supposed to be general of one of the teams.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, there was a lot of sleep going on during those few days.
Sure.
But Baruch Hashem, was amazing. Then El started.
Wow.
And then we got engaged a week before Shoshana. And we got married a few months later. My brother also got married, Baruch Hashem, in the middle, a month before me. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was... Baruch Hashem, many simchas. As my mother just said today, she made 2 weddings during Corona, and Baruch Hashem, they were both, in between both weddings, there was a huge crazy wave in Israel, but Baruch Hashem, both simchas were able to be big, like hundreds of people at the wedding, Baruch Hashem.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, one thing that I wanted you to touch on is, you talk about Rabbi Liff, correct? Yeah?
Yeah.
So I want you to touch on this idea of having a rabbi and having a role model, someone to look up to, if you don't mind.
So I'm gonna explain, like, I'm gonna give a certain bit of a mashal, and I'm gonna try not to quote names of people because I know it could mess people up a lot, even though whoever's doing the Daf Yomi just learned, Rebbe Lazar, Reb Chanina, the Gemara in Megillah says that Kol Omer Davar B'Shem Omer Mevigi Ula La'olam. But as I was taught by my Rebbe in 9th grade, by the way, sometimes you don't say the names because you're gonna confuse everybody and lose the points. So sometimes I am gonna, but there's a certain sefer that I learned. If you think about it, when a child is born, when a child is born, he is not independent at all. He's relying on his mother. If you leave a baby, the healthiest baby, by himself for 24 hours, Chaz v'shalom, there isn't going to be who to come back to, right? And an animal, the second it's born, give it a little bit of time, it starts by itself, walking around, whatever it is. And then, but look a few years forward, the human is a lot more, I'm going to call it, dealing with himself, a lot more independent than the baby animal. So how does this work? Because when a child is born, it talks about that he needs to understand that he's always independent. He's always relying on someone. And with time, he's going to rely towards Hashem, right? But a person always has that certain thing of realizing, I can't do this by myself. A person reaches a certain age, even before getting married and that. We all become teenagers, and Avi, you spoke about this a little bit at the last episode. I think this is the idea about we reach an age where even if people are telling us the wise stuff, I need to do it my way. And sometimes when you tell a child at a certain age, a teenager, do this, he's on purpose not going to do it. You need to tell them, don't do this in order for them to do it. Right?
Reverse psychology is always the best.
It's always so. But a person is always relying on someone, and he reaches a point where he realizes, you know what, I can't do it. Somebody says, if I want, I could fly. No, you can't. If you're going to try to fly, you're going to fall and kill yourself. You can't, right? When they say, En davar omed bifnei haratzon, I could do whatever I want. No, you can't. If somebody can't be a pilot, he can't be a pilot. Okay? The idea is behind the wanting, but by the end of the day, I depend on other stuff. But a lot of times when a person realizes and he's like, I'm not sharing these ideas with my parents, the personal, right? Now you would think about it, your parents know you from the youngest age, but a person reaches an age where he's like, this is embarrassing. So he says, I needed to share with someone. Some people could have older siblings or role model therapy. But in Yiddishkeit, the way we believe it is there has to be sharing with someone the idea of getting, I'm not going to call it just an opinion about hadracha, how to do it, or to open the eyes, because the way it works, Rabbi Lift taught me, he says, when you go ask a professional question, what could the therapist say? He could say what he thinks, what to work on. Is the therapist responsible if something happens? Not really. When you ask a Rebbe for Das Torah, the Rebbe is taking responsibility in Shamayim, right? The Paskin halacha, even if Shamayim, they think, I'm going to say halacha is different. If the Rebbe Paskin here, then they go according to what's Paskin here.
Wow.
That's what a Rebbe is. And everybody needs that older, that I'm going to call it that role model, that person to look up to. And I'm not calling it in Torah circles, it's a Rebbe, because everybody has shilas, everybody has the questions. And by the end of the day, everything is in the Torah. When I say everything, all the questions, the most personal, the most, I'm going to call it health questions and all of that, a lot of times the Rebbe is going to send it to a doctor. But also when a Rebbe sends it to a professional doctor, the doctor's not paskening. The doctor's bringing the information back to the Rebbe, and then the Rebbe paskins. And what Rabbi Liv played for me is he played for me a role model in the first time of realizing that, first of all, that your Rebbe is there going to tell you in a certain way. Rav Wolben, the Ali Shur, talks about it. Rabbi Liv had the schus to be a Talmud of his.
Really?
Yeah. So I had the schus to be a Talmud of Rabbi Liv. He talks about a lot, the idea if a person really wants to succeed in life, to become close to Talmud Chacham, he got to love the beat up. That means that if a person doesn't love being told what to do and how to correct himself when it comes out of love, then he's never going to grow. He's never going to see. He's never going to want anybody to tell him what's wrong with him. Now, when a Rebbe tells him what's wrong with him, doesn't mean you're bad, not at all. It means you want to work on yourself with a smile. When he comes, not only says this and this you got to work on. The Rebbe also gives you a plan. That's the difference. A Das Torah and a Rebbe don't just tell you what you need to work on. They work on with you. They put themselves in the package. And they give you ideas about how to do it. And they're always there for you, no matter what hour. Somebody can call a therapist whenever he wants. The rabbis I know and the friends that I know that have rabbis, I had a story. My Rebbe, it's crazy. There's what a Rebbe is a Rebbe is. He feels this a certain feeling. It's not a professional. He becomes a child of his, and that's what Rabbi Liv played to me with that feeling. And whoever here, Avi, I'm sure you could say about certain rabbis from Reishi to certain people throughout your life that it's a whole different feeling. You develop a relationship of you can't explain it.
Like a parent almost. It's someone you can rely on, and someone who you trust in them.
Right, and somebody who you're going to go to when you have trouble with your parents.
Yeah. It's the parent away from home. That's what they like to say.
And it is.
Yeah.
Because everybody needs that person. If somebody says, I don't need that older, and that older person could be an older brother, but it starts. But we know that when a person gets older, he realizes he needs that Torah authority because, first of all, person lives his life on Torah and everybody has questions. If somebody doesn't have questions, he's doing something wrong.
And so another question, by the way, that I want you to go into a little bit. I mean, there's a lot more that I know you want to delve into, but we can work it alongside this other piece, is that how did you input this learning to when you yourself were being a madrich within Reishit? As in, when you were in that position now that you almost, like, I learned my first piece of Gemara with you. Like, we sat down doing brachas. I'll be honest, I didn't understand a word that was going on, but we were there. You were inspiring us. You were telling us how we do it. So how are you bringing those pieces in that you were learning, like, especially from Rabbi Liff and all of these different points?
So the first thing that I would say that I learned is the patience in terms of, because when Rabbi Liff, I'm going to use him as an example, he probably heard the questions that I asked him and the problems that I presented to him, I don't know if 100 times, maybe even more. But every time he made it feel like it's the first time he's hearing it in 100%. And understanding that this person, I need this plan, I need this, and slowly. And I'm not supposed to get him to work my pace. I'm supposed to work his pace, right? When I sat down, I remember in Reshit, one of the hardest stuff for me, and my English is not so well. My vocabulary is not, like, I would
love to disagree, because think of all the Americans and the Brits screaming at the screen right now. We can't speak Hebrew. So anything, it's funny from an English and Brit perspective, anyone who's not speaking our language perfectly, it's disgraceful. How can you do that? But yet we can only speak one language. So you got to understand, you're already double the amount that we can speak Hebrew. So it's incredible.
So I said, so in a certain way, also what you're talking about is, Baruch Hashem, I grew up in Israel, so I also have that advantage of the basic stuff, because a lot of times I remember one of the first stuff was like, and also to myself, it comes like a lot of times we say stuff in prayer and davening every single day. We don't understand what it means, half of the stuff. I'm not talking about deep meaning. I'm talking about simple stuff like
translation.
Saying it like, so in a certain way, it's chut, first of all, to grow up in Eretz Yisrael and to learn the basics in a certain way. And one of the stuff that I remember is, in my head, I was like, I'm sitting there, I'm trying to learn. I remember it was the fourth parak in Brachos. So it was Tfilas HaShachar. Rav Eli started a shir, and we were a group of guys learning. Shout out to you, Avi, to Joel Yuko, Alex Fachlor, the whole crew, Joey. We started a whole crew, we started starting that the British crew, and we tried to do the Chazar or whatever it was.
Ezra Fletcher was there. The Oilam
the Oilam. And sorry, I forgot anybody else. Benji Hertz, I think, was also there.
Wow. Well, the boys, this takes me back. This is very nostalgic.
Yep. And I remember, like, we were starting slowly, and some people were a little fast and some people were slow. And I remember looking from the side, I was like, I learned this Gemara a few times, and I was like, it's just very simple words. And then and then I realized, I was like, stop a second. And I was like, you're playing a different role. And Rav Pinkus, right, the Rebbe, who a few times, Shabbos Malkus, whoever, a few times was quoted, he actually brings down his book about chinuch, that he talks about like this: when a Rebbe walks into a class, he shouldn't say, these kids work by me. He needs to look at the class as, I work for them. I'm the shliach to make them the next dole ador. They don't work for me, I work for them. That means that a person needs to work by their pace, and that means not to his job is not to teach them what he knows. It's to teach them for them and their pace and slowly. And really where Rabbi Lifos taught me is when he was sat in a group is to try and give every single person the position, even if it's for a second, not to lose the rest of the crew, but to also try and give every single person the most simple question, to give it yachas. And after the time, even after we finished the learning, that a person always knew that he could come to me at whatever time it was and I could try and answer. And this slowly. And I remember also when one of the stuff was when one of the person in the group wanted to, he said it was a little too much and he felt that it was going too fast for him. So he said, if he could after the side, remember, and we started learning after on the side by ourselves, just us. It was really giving that slowly that time. And I remember like one stuff that really I learned from Rabbi Liff is that patience is that every single person with that smile. And even when everybody, remember when we used to tell everybody they have to put the phones on the tables. It was done with a smile. So I put I think I had the smartphone and the kosher phone that I put down the table as a joke. And it started as like a joke, but it really got people. It's like, it's to do it with a smile and to with that good feeling and to present stuff, not as like, and if somebody didn't want to come, okay, we missed them. Not that, okay, you lost or whatever it is. It wasn't the right approach.
Mm-hmm. It's very much the approach that matters and how you,
if you approach something with happiness, first of all, the other side automatically sees it and they feel that you're real. And it's, people want to connect. One of the stuff that Rabbi Landau, sorry I interrupted you, but Rabbi Landau from Reshit, I know also there's Rabbi Landau from Hasmo that I got to know from my wife. So whenever we say Rabbi Landau, we need to clarify which one we're talking about in our house. So Rabbi Landau, I think one of the stuff I was talking to, I think it was Gav Khan actually, shout out. That Rabbi Landau always walks down with a smile. Always walks around with a smile. Now I'm gonna ask you, if people see a person walking with a smile, what do they think of him? He's weird. That's what people think today, and it's sad because people don't understand what it means. Real happiness. I'm happy because who I am, not because what's going around me, not because reactions of everybody around me. I'm a Jew. Hashem made me. I'm a Jew. I'm happy. I feel good with my life. Nobody can take it away from me. And no matter what happens, so somebody said this, okay, I feel bad for him. Like, I'm happy with who I am.
It's such an important idea as well to be able to have that confidence in yourself. When you understand that Hashem's constantly the one who's directing you, giving you a path, it's a lot easier. You're not giving into the ideas of the people around you. You're giving into the one who actually is guiding you. It's a lot easier to be happier there.
Right, because a lot of times, I remember one of the stuff that actually what happened when Corona started. So it was Purim Night, where I remember guys that were half drunk in Reshit. Flights started canceling. I remember sitting in a room of two guys. It was Zeev and Henry, and I remember suddenly they started realizing the tickets, and people like felt that they lost the Purim. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But I remember some guys were left, some guys were packing out, some guys were getting what we called the phone call, because in the Gulf War, people got what they called the phone call and that they had from the parents that they have to get in a plane. Yeah. So that's what it felt like. We got woken up. Well, our flight is in 2 hours. We need our passports. And Ravak was woken up all the time and passports every night.
Yeah. I just remember, by the way, that I think it was Rob Ari. He was saying, but I think maybe was it the Gulf War? I'm not sure which war it was, but when they were in Yeshiva, he was like, there were some guys who their parents, when they were actually being bombed, like that some guys went home, some guys got to stay. Whereas with Corona, like, okay, at the time it was scary, but like Corona was it was a virus. It wasn't like we were being imminent, like we were going to be killed in Israel or whatever. It was just very funny that like when you contrast them, like back then they stayed in Yeshiva, but for us it was like a mass exodus. I think there was like 4 guys who stayed in Yeshiva the whole time.
Yeah. So I remember it was towards the end, and it was getting closer to Pesach, and I remember Avi, I'm getting a secret about you. You didn't start feeling so well.
Oh,
and what they did, and I was gonna bring this up for a reason. And what they did is they locked in one of the suites. They put their Avi in the first quarantine case in Reshit. And I remember we were trying to keep it, like we were telling all the guys, you okay? And I remember it wasn't when they were rushing to test in Mada. They were waiting to see how you're gonna feel, and then they were gonna test you. So but I remember we in Assume was still trying to talk to you, but on the other end, all the guys were scared. They were feeling that something was really happening in that, and we had to keep all the guys calm, and everybody was getting nervous. Everybody thought that something was going on. We were hiding for them, and I remember the realizing of like suddenly and it's hard, obviously. It was the beginning where everybody thought that if somebody had corona, it was like when they had the numbers of the flight of who was on what, like that's when it was. And
everyone thought as well that if people found out that I had corona, they wouldn't be allowed on their flight as well. So that was the scary thing as well.
And they didn't want, but I remember a lot of times what it made me think, I felt the saying of like, guys, stop a second thinking about yourself. Look, that guy is by himself. You guys still running around. But then I realized that even when they were trying to, but inside they had their head, and they had that pressure of people calling, are you coming? Like every single person got a phone call almost. And it was that idea of that really we were talking to the guys, and guys really stepped up of realizing of, even though I'm in a certain situation, let me think about the other person. And when a person is actually happy with who he is and believes who he is the best place, then he doesn't let all that pressure come from the back. Okay, so I'm going to get stuck. I'm not going to be able to. There were a few guys that did that approach, and they just had a great time. They were like, okay, I'm in quarantine, whatever it is, it's hard. I'm not going to be able to go back home, and it was hard, but I'm just going to be happy. And they were asking about you in a good, and we're trying to see how they could help and everything.
I had to say there were some of the biggest acts of chesed done at that time. Simcha Wiseman specifically, I haven't spoken to him in a while, but this is a huge shout out to him. He came, he helped me do my laundry because I was there. I was mummish sick. We got to clarify, I didn't have corona at that point. I had strep after all that.
I remember that. It was like in the office, it was like the topic every day started the meeting was, Avi, what's going on with him? What's going on with Avi?
I'm sorry I caused you all so much stress. That was fun. But I remember he had to come in with like gloves and they didn't have proper masks at that point. The guy who came to test me, he came in a hazmat suit. I was terrified because he did like the whole strep test in a suit and everything. I was like, am I gonna die? What's the deal here? Like, this is terrifying. But people came in, they did my laundry for me, they would bring me food, and like Eitan obviously like was staying outside talking to me the whole time. Like, there were so many incredible acts of kindness there. And like, you're right, once you take that step back and like, it's not just like, yes, it's a scary time, but it's not just how am I in this situation. So it's such an important thing to get touched on.
It's a thinking is just, and it literally slides into chesed, because chesed is just a person wanting to give just for wanting to give, not to give back. Because chesed comes out of it really comes out of love, and comes out of, I want to do chesed with the other person because I love the other person, not because it's comfortable for me. Actually, Rabbi Landau's son, Yaakov, the oldest one, wrote a sefer called Nase Adam, which I was talking to Yona Name and a friend of mine. We said we have to translate into English. Like, it has to be translated. It's next level. And it talks about his father-in-law brings in the introduction, brings Askam. He says like this: there could be a person that's the biggest Baal Chesed, but when he gets on the bus, he can't wear a mask because it's not comfortable for him. Where's the Baal Chesed there? It was an example. Baal Chesed, when it's comfortable for me, it's on my way. It's great. I see a lady walking in the street. She has many bags. It's my way. Let me help. That's a great act of chesed. That's a great act. But when a person becomes a Baal Chesed, is when it's literally out of his way, out of his comfort zone, of doing stuff matan baseter, doing it not with everybody seeing. That's a real Baal Chesed. Now, it doesn't have to be a person does it for his name, to get a hashtag on social media. Hashtag I donated it. I want everybody to know. Because sometimes you do want people to know, and there's certain halachas about it, that sometimes they shouldn't really bid stuff, money, and shows, but sometimes they do it in order to get other people from the community also to bid and to donate. But it's about chesed. It's somebody that does, he looks at himself and he says, I just want to do this for other, not because he's going to do the same thing for me. Nothing to do with what he does to me. It should be me doing for others. The second it starts involving the other person in the math, it lost the point of the chesed already. It's a nice thing, but it's not chesed. Because if the person wouldn't do it back for me, you would be hurt. And you would think, well, I shouldn't have done it, right? And a friend of mine showed me Rashi in Baba Metzia, actually, that says that if a person does something and is mitcharet on it, like a good thing, yeah, and he says I shouldn't have done it, it's better he shouldn't even have done it at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's scary. Because then they say it bottles it completely. It's like,
yeah, it's talking about a good. I think it was referring. Remember, it shook me when he was talking about a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a scary thing. So we touched on the ratio a little bit. We touched on having a Rebbe. the other thing I wanted to move on to a little bit was your music. The music. So where does the music come in? Because now you want to tell them what you're currently doing at the moment. Where's your music taking you at the moment?
So currently I'm trying slowly to get back into learning and music right now. Also writing a lot of stuff, not really recording yet, B'ezrat Hashem one day. But it's now I do a lot of times events with my younger brother, Moshe, who plays. Yeah, he
And
plays really good. He's the
right?
professional. Yeah, I make noise, as we call it.
I
Well, as they call it.
I have a very fun story that I just got reminded of. Do you remember the fun fair in Rashid? We've got a great video for it as well. You remember the fun fair we did? Rashid does every year for the families around. They have like a fun fair to raise money, and we have lots of things going on. And you were singing alongside one of the Brits that came. And there's just remind me of the video of the pie. You remember the pie video?
Obviously,
that is one of the most iconic videos, and just you and one of the Brits singing in the background. That was one of the fun moments. So
yeah.
So you sing with your brother. You do all of these events, but I want to know, where did it come? Where did it come? The story.
It started many years ago, even before I was bar mitzvah. There was a choir in Mutti Pogrow called Kol Barama that I joined for 1 year, and it was a lot of kids from the community. It was singing. There was also voice lessons. It was, in a certain way, I always loved singing and making noise, and just, I don't know, just playing like on darbukot. Darbukot, I don't know what to call it. It's like the single drums. It's like people use when they go to the kotel. They do these bar mitzvot. Yeah. We're not going to talk about that right now. But yeah, the way I got my first darbuka, if I'm not mistaken, actually was a crazy story. I was offered a trip to America. There was a certain rotation about the kids going to America in the family. This is a true story. And dear Mutti Pogrow was walking through the Arab shuk because he went to school in the old city in Zolman. And he saw a darbuka who cost 70 shekel. And he wanted it. So it was made as a joke, the offer, that I was going to get the darbuka instead of going to America. And I was straight out serious about it. So I got the darbuka instead of going to America. It took me the next year to America, but it was literally, that's how I got my first darbuka. Wow. And I didn't regret it. I loved the darbuka. I made a lot of noise. Not the people around me didn't love it so much, but yeah. So I started there really doing the singing more in choirs and soloists. And then after I joined the choir of Shira Chadasha by Rabbi Nachman Seltzer, now who is a famous author and a rabbi, and he teaches. And but back in those days, he did Shira Chadasha. Yeah, I felt so cool when my name was on the back of a Shweki CD. That was like, I remember when I was in the recording of the Shweki CD and my name was on the back of the album. To me, it was wow. Like
that is pretty wow. You got to give it.
I know.
Pretty epic.
But it was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of, I'm gonna call it a run around. There was music and concerts and stuff. I remember the highlight of my singing, it almost gets me to cry, was at the Siyum Hashas of Dirshu. Almost 10 years ago, where I had the schus to be on stage and to sing with Rav David Hofstadter, his father-in-law. I think it was his father, to sing Zachsten Schein de Geula. Okay, now I don't remember the words of the song. It was in Yiddish, 6 kids, they taught us on the spot. I don't remember the words. Okay, and I didn't remember then. It was something, Mashiach Zoshen Kumin. Now, you're all trying to make up the words in front of 5,000 people, and all the biggest rabbis of the American from community in Eretz Yisrael are there. The G'dai Le'olam are there. And it was a schus. I remember it was like, wow. It was the first time they were singing there and feeling. And when I watch the video sometimes of Hadron Alach that they made back of that, sometimes it makes me tear. Yeah, I'm sorry. I actually teared once on a Reishi trip when we went, it was one of those trips. I don't remember where we stayed. I think it was in Bayelat. And I was watching that video right before the hike after, sleeping all night with everybody being so amazing on their best behavior. And so that was like one of the biggest moments. And then I didn't do it because I was in Yeshiva. So I couldn't do it because Yeshiva goes later. Yeshiva Night Yisrael goes till like 9 o'clock at night from like 9th grade. Yeah.
As intense.
As intense.
Wow.
But so I'm saying, so then it wasn't so much music, then it was just like myself, a lot of fun. But then at like age 17, I started teaching myself piano. Now, really what I did is I wanted to learn music theory. So what I did is I took the big window in my bedroom And I just took a marker and I did all like the like started music theory, like the circle of fifths and all the scales, whatever it's called, the keys. And I wrote it out, a whole big, it looks like in Hebrew, it's called Luach HaKefe. I don't know that it says 1, you do 1 to 10 and you could just, whatever it's called.
I'm not holding in the music notes of the world.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. So Tilted is a little bit of evidence there. And I started there slowly. And I realized that just like music is a therapy to me. And it's with my ADHD, one of the only stuff that could get me to sit down just like for hours and hours and hours. And I started writing.
I mean, we've done pretty well here so far, by the way. So
Baruch Hashem, yeah. I don't know if you realize I've been doing this the whole time also.
It's okay.
That's why it's good the screen doesn't see everything.
Yeah.
Not only because I am actually wearing pants, but not only because all those people that don't wear pants, under the desk.
You wear a suit on the top and nothing under.
Corona got everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody got exposed at Corona in the Zooms. And so it was one of the stuff sitting down, and I started slowly and Baruch Hashem. So I got myself a piano. And then I started more and more and started slowly singing at events. It was family sing. I remember it was the first time I think that I sang, like that was the first time that I felt the song the most, except the Dirshu, was when I had this chus 3.5 years ago when my sister got married, to sing her down the aisle. And it was a week before Rosh Hashanah. And my brother-in-law walked down to the yeah, so that was like a whole different level, a week before Rosh Hashanah. And then Mia Dear, we sang the Curry Bone of Ari Goldwagon. That's a song that whoever was in Reshit know I love. And I used to sing it all the time. And then there was a few, and then we did a whole long thing. And that was slowly when we started getting into it. And I wrote a song for a wedding and Rosh Hashanah. And since then, I was supposed to write about 40 songs or something. I've been sending a lot to people, and because I'm always, nobody's biased over his own music.
Yeah.
Well, everybody is biased. I don't know exactly how you say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Everyone.
You always have the feeling of
music.
This is not. You always have the feeling of, well, this is not. I can't do with this anything. Mm-hmm. So but as my wife told me when we were driving, I think it was right before we got married or during Sheva Brachos. So I was talking to her like about the music a little bit, and that she goes, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you a koach, you shouldn't be embarrassed of it. Who are you to steal it from the world?
Wow.
If a person, Rabbi Elephant, one of the rabbis in the mirror, talks about, he says, if the person, the biggest Baal Anova, the biggest humble, could be the biggest Baal Gaiva. Person says, I have nothing, I have no kochos, he's the biggest Baal Gaiva, because he's getting himself off everything. He says, I don't have to do anything. No, you don't. If Hashem gave you kochos, you have what to do, and every person has to hold himself accountable. There's two stuff. When a person realizes he has to always have that balance, what to say, well, I have these kochos, so I'm better than everybody. No, that means that a person needs to realize that if I have all these kochos, I have to hold myself accountable, right? And to be proud, what is chos? But to also say, well, I have to do something with them. I love saying in Hebrew, as a joke, there's a song of Hanan Ben Ari, Hachaim she'elanu tutim, whoever heard it. So that means our life is strawberries. So in Hebrew, it's a slang. So what we say as a joke, and we used to say it, I think in camp, we used to say, so don't step on others.
Wow.
If our life is strawberry, don't step on others. Means don't squeeze others. And because a person always has to have that, rabbis bring down that a person has to have two in both pockets. One that says, Vanochi afar va'efer, right? And the other one says, Bishvili nivra olam. One says that I'm nothing, and the other one's the world created for me. Person always has to have that balance, and it's very hard. But a person that every single person where he is in his life, if he's working, person shouldn't say that, oh, if I'm working, I can't be a good Jew, and I'm not at all. If you have, there's 6 questions, many questions when a person comes up to Shemayim. The first one is, Kavata itim la Torah. The question is not, did you learn? It's not the question, it's Kavata itim la Torah. Every single person who's working, Kavata itim la Torah. It should be learning and working. It's not the amount of time a day. That's not what it is. It means the kviut. And the second one is nasata v'natata be'emuna. Did you do your business with emuna? Emes? That's what it means. That means that if Chazal say that that's what a person gets asked when he goes up to Shemayim, that means that, you know what? Maybe there's a good idea. Maybe there's a good thing I could do when I'm out there in the business world. Person is a representative of Hashem when he goes out into the business world. Yeah. And he could do a huge Kiddush Hashem.
It's one of the scary things though, because when you really go down to it, what's truly being emet within business? There's
So what?
Go on.
No, yeah, go on. Sorry, cut you out.
No, I was gonna say there's so many things. Even if you're getting paid by the hour, it's your all of these things. That means every aspect of your thing that, and also that's being Koveyan Torah at that point in time, because you're holding to it. You're really setting yourself in it. But yeah, continue with your point you were saying.
So actually, it was going into what you say. A lot of times, so it's a question today what you were saying, and I'm not here, I'm not a rabbi, I'm not paskening, but if I get paid by the hour, what am I allowed to do during that hour? What is considered normal? If I stopped for a minute. So there's what's considered normal. If a person is working in a business, he shouldn't be shopping, he shouldn't be looking for shopping for his own stuff during that time. Right? He shouldn't be checking his flights or his credit card score at that time. But there's a lot of stuff that are normal, like a person has to run to the bathroom, a person's eating, getting a drink. There's a lot of stuff that are considered, it's normal. A person is not stealing, but a person has to know, right? For an example, when a person's learning in Kollel and a person gets paid for it, he can't answer the phone in the middle of Seder. If a person comes late and he gets paid for it, so there's certain stuff that people understand the situations, and whoever's paying says it's okay, he's mochel. There's many stuff that are the normal, but person needs to look into it, every single aspect of his life that I do, that I get paid for. Am I actually getting paid for it? Now, a lot of times it would sound babyish, but say to the person, are you mochel me 5 minutes? Or I know I did 5 minutes this. Like, it sounds babyish. Oh, it's okay. Make sure, because it's not so good to come up to Shemaim and owe somebody else money. It's not so recommended.
Yeah.
So it's an emes is a big topic in business. It means, first of all, emes could be what's important. Is this worth it? Is the values of what I'm going to gain from doing this deal? Is this going to make me, I could make a huge business deal. And yeah, it could make me that way I could sit and learn, or my children. But is this business deal, am I stealing for it? That's not worth it. That's called mitzvah abba avera. Like, it doesn't even have to be a mitzvah because a person is planning. Usually when a person does that whole business plan and he ends up stealing, he's not going to end up sitting and learning exactly. Except if he does tshuva. But it's for a person to be honest with himself and realize that I could lose a lot of money, and it's very hard. But when a person does emes, he doesn't lose out, because emes in business and emes in life are two different stuff. Emes in business, I mean, it's one long big thing, idea of what emes is, but in business and whatever a person does in life, he needs to realize what is the right thing right now. Because Rav Dessler talks about it a lot. Is emes in the world today? They think that emes is what? Emes is what happened, right? That's not true. That's not what emes is. If Chazal tell us that mutav la'adam sheyapil atzmo lekif shenei, a person should jump into fire and not embarrass his friend in the rabbin, right, in public. So what does that mean? But this happened. They saw it, whatever it was. Again, halachas lashon, we're not going into that. Emes and sheker is not what was happened. Emes and sheker is what has to be said at that same time. A person could say what happened in real life, and it could be a lie in the Torah's eyes. And a person could say not what happened, it's going to be emes, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even it says, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to Avraham Avinu, right? It says HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to Avraham Avinu and he said, why was Sarah laughing? Now what did Hashem say? Why did Sarah laugh that she said, how am I going to have a baby? I'm so old. What really happened? The Psukim told us that Sarah laughed. Avraham is old. Right? But why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu say? So the Mefarshim said that HaKadosh Baruch Hu changed because of the Shalom. That teaches us the idea of a person needs to understand that what's true in emes and sheker is not what happened. That's not what emes and sheker is. The world today tries and tell us only what the fact is the truth. That's not right. That's not right at all what goes on, because there's many situations where a person has to or take blame that he didn't do something. He sees there's somebody he knows, right? And he sees this person is angry. And this is his friend, and somebody did something. He knows if he takes the blame, that guy's not going to do anything. He sees somebody else, he knows he didn't do it. He knows if that other person is going to hear that somebody else did it, he's going to beat him up. He should take the blame. It's not sheker. Sheker, no, that's not a lie. Because that's not what emes and sheker is in Chazal's eyes. And what the Torah says, and It's a lot of times today in today's world that say, well, that's not what happened. Am I asking what happened or not, or what I'm asking what emet and sheker is? If people ask what is the truth, then they're not asking what happened. They're asking what's the truth. It's two separate questions.
Yeah. Wow.
Because in a lot of times, and just what I was saying, a little bit the topic of that we were saying, and I don't know, again, the time-wise, whatever you do, the Emuna. That Emuna is a person living by knowing this is all true. Now, what does it mean all true? You were talking about a little before, when I know Hashem put me in this amazing place and this is all for me. Yeah, let's say the truth. It's nice ideas in that, but it's hard. When a person goes through a struggle, it's hard. You were talking about last episode about Gamzul Tova, right? A person needs to believe and say it. A person doesn't right away believe Gamzul Tova. He needs to say it, learn about it, believe about it. People in Hollywood spend the Super Bowl is coming up. They spend, I don't know, what's the number, 5.6 billion for 30 seconds, million.
Crazy.
And
Crazy.
What is it? Because they just play an advertising that is getting into people's heads. Now, why could we not use that trick for Yiddishkeit? A person says, you know what, till I get a fact, I don't believe. Why the advertisement you're going to play 100 times? You're going to say, hey, this is jokes. Hey, beautiful advertising. They spend money. You're going to end up buying that car. Why? Just plays over and over. In psychology, a person should do the same thing in Yiddishkeit till he believes and learn about it. The Yud Gimel Ikarim, the Ani Mamin, person should slowly say it. It's going to get into his head. And what you're saying, Gamzul Tova, it gets into a person's head and he lives that way.
Yeah.
And it's a person realizing that there's a whole different game going behind. Right? Because a lot of times Gamzul Tova could say, this is all for the good. It says, oh, I missed the bus and that bus blew up. Gamzul Tova, you see? And what happens if that bus didn't blow up? So it's not Gamzul Tova? No, sometimes we're zoche, quote unquote. And also when that bus blew up, we don't even know if that was the reason.
Yeah.
Right? We don't know. We try and find stuff to hang on. It's normal. We're human.
There's only so much we can understand as well. So it makes sense to grasp onto these things.
Right. I saw a sefer that brings down, I think it's Rav Hoffman that he brings down. He was a big Rav, big psychologist, that he says where the seichel ends, the emuna begins. Because a person is never gonna understand what a Kadosh Baruch Hu is. The higher person,
it's impossible.
You can't understand. The higher a person level is, the smaller he realizes he is. You would think, you look at the picture of Rav Ovadia behind you. If you would ask Rav Ovadia, Zatzal, what would Rav Ovadia say? I am nothing. Little, he would say nothing. Now you look, you're like, you are Rav Ovadia. What you did to Am Yisrael, because the closer they are, the more they realize the nothing. In front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a crazy idea of understanding that the Emuna means just, yes, straight out Emuna. Because today's world, they say, well, if I don't understand, then I don't believe in it. Really? I'm gonna ask a boy. Does a boy know what it means for a woman to give birth? He's gonna say no. And I'm gonna say, but come on. He's like, I read about it. I'm a huge doctor. I know about it. Do you know what it feels like? They're gonna put machines of what it feels like. No, you're still not gonna know because it's not that feeling. So, but what he believes, it's painful. Why that? Yeah, and Emuna not. Why Emuna? Only if people feel that they know, then it's okay. But if they don't know, then it's not okay. I think because first of all, those stuff people believe that in, let's say, a pain of somebody giving birth. People that have this conception that with technology, people are gonna get to feel what it. People are gonna get to a point where they're gonna feel what it means, right? Let's say to have that pain. So people say, you know what? Eventually, I'm gonna do it. Eventually, it's gonna be proved. In something spiritual, there's no such thing. It's never gonna be physical. A person's not gonna be able to feel. When a person gets to a level of Emuna, he could see HaKadosh Baruch Hu everywhere, right? Uncle Moshe has a song, Hashem is there, Hashem is here, Hashem is always everywhere. Now it sounds like we're gonna say a little stupid thing, but it's not. Because when a person sings that, the Mesilas Yesharim, right, the Ramchal, who the Gaon Mevilna, who's a pretty big person, said that if he was alive the generation before, he would walk in his feet to see the Mesilas Yesharim, the Ramchal, who was niftar at the age of 36, by the way, I think, or 36 or 40. And what he wrote was crazy. And what he said, the Mesilas Yesharim says in an introduction, as my Rabbi Rav Shmuel Woman summed it up. Mesilas Yesharim said, I didn't come to say any new stuff, any chidushim, just stuff that were known to everybody. Now you're like, the Mesilas Yesharim, that's the book, probably one of the Musar books since Pirkei Avos that were written, like Jewish law and Jewish Musar. But it teaches us that it's just speaking more and more to our generation. But the most simple stuff that people say, oh, this is obvious. Remind us, first of all, of the obvious stuff. Because when the people don't remind the obvious stuff, then slowly, also the more complicated stuff they just don't believe in, right? And the base is just Emuna. The Gemara in Mako says, right? Shout out to Rabbi Kimchi and Reshit. The Gemara in Mako says that there was a few generations, right? There was a few nisyonos, different doros, and Chavaku came, the Gemara says David and some Chavaku came and he put the Torah on one mitzvah. It says v'tzadik be'emunosa yichya, right? That means that tzaddik with his emuna is going to live. Now, first of all, this quote is misquoted a lot, and people say it in Israel. Ish be'emunato yichya. That means a person is emuna, he can live whatever he wants. It started, I don't know where, maybe Christianity changes, so maybe the generations. That quote does not exist in Chazal. Does not exist. I'm not telling you, but it would make no sense. As I saw in Hidabrut, they said, yeah, Hashem is saying, if you don't do good, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. But then he says, you know what? If you're not in the mood, it's okay. It wouldn't make sense. Okay? So he says, tzaddik be'emunato yichye. That means that a tzaddik with his emunah is going to live. Now, it doesn't mean that there was only one mitzvah. Rav Shteinman Zatzal talks about it, and he says, that means that was the base, the chizuk that was needed in that door. When a person lives with emunah, and he just, literally, the book Living Emuna, then everything in his life is surrounded around it. Every single thing he sees, every single thing that happens is Emuna, and he believes and he finds how to connect it to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? As they always tell us, what you're about to do, could it be connected to Yiddishkeit? If yeah. If not, run.
It's the truth. That is, wow. Hey, Mutti, we're gonna have to wrap up a little bit. Before we end though, is there any last thing that you want to leave with the Olam to leave us with one final message? This was truly, by the way, like incredible, and it feels like I'm back in Yeshiva again. Like I'm getting so much geschmack from this conversation and like learning again so much. So before we end off, is there anything you want to add? You want to leave us with?
I think that something that I've learned lately, and I'm learning about myself, is we all watch these inspiring, I'm going to say podcasts, we all watch these inspiring, not only in the Torah world, these inspiring businessmen, these inspiring degree. And what do we say? I want to be like them. Stop right there. You're not going to be like them. You know why? It's not your tafkid. You don't have those kochos. Even before trying. In the Goyish world, what people try to do like their idols is they do surgeries, plastic surgeries of tens of thousands of dollars just to look like somebody. In Yiddishkeit, nobody does that. The idea of what a person should look, from a person he looks up to, a role model, or a Rebbe, he should say, maybe I could try my actions. What could I learn? What topic? I'm not going to be like him because I don't have the kochos. It's not my tafkid. If a person tries to be somebody who's not, he's a posher. He's not doing his tafkid in the world. Like that's a scared. His neshama is going to come up to Shemaim, and Hashem is going to say, I gave you a tafkid. Why did you not do it? Right? And every single person, if he looks deep, and in order to start this, a person has to stop, sit down, and the scariest thing we all know is to sit and do cheshbon hanefesh. Now, cheshbon hanefesh sounds like this big idea in Judaism. No, not do Judaism. Person wants to succeed in life. He needs to see what areas he's good in, right? The person needs to stop, even before a few minutes every day, to stop, and it's scary. A person needs to look at himself what he has to work on. It's very simple to see everybody else what they have to work on. But myself, I'm perfect.
Exactly.
Well, no, we're not. Because if a person's perfect, he should write a will and go lay down in bed, as we said earlier. But it's the idea of a person really taking a few minutes, realizing stuff that he feels that he's good at, speaking it out. If a person has a Rebbe, a professional, a role model, speak it out where you think. Don't think it's gaiva. It's not gaiva. If you don't do it, you're about gaiva. You're taking yourself off the hook. No. Person has to look about himself, say, well, if I have this talents, I have to use them. How could I use them? Now, this idea of being inspired by people is, what do I take? What's the right inspiration? I'm going to give an example about, that I was talking to my wife about. People look at the doilim, right? Could I be like this rabbi? Could I be like this businessman? Look at this rabbi. He's learning. He has no money and he's still learning. So I should stop. Look at these huge rabbis that had loads of money and still learn Torah. The Rashash, one of the Gedolei Olam, right? He had he was a very rich person. How does this work? And the idea that stands behind it is, what do I take from, what do I look at the role model? From the rabbis, a little role model that I think a person could take for an example, a person looks up to his Rebbe in Yeshiva. He should look about priorities in life, not about that he's learning even though he's poor. That's not what the priority is. What it means is what's important. Because when it's important to a person, even when it's hard, he doesn't walk around and say, children, look, I'm learning even though I'm poor. There's no even though. There's I'm learning because that's the best thing. The second a person starts doing the calculation on the table, he got to be very careful. Because if I'm learning even though I'm poor, that's not, you don't make it exciting. The exciting part should be, I'm learning because that's the best thing, for an example, right? I'm studying now I'm in college, I'm studying now, even though there's a basketball going on and my friends are going out to drink, because I'm going to lose so much if I'm not, because I want to. Because if a person feels that, oh, I'm doing this and I'm suffering, what's going to end up, it's going to take a little bit of time, but he's going to end up not doing it. But when a person actually feels strong and looks positive at what he's doing, not as a negative, then he's going to stand strong against everybody. Because if he's doing the right thing, everybody else is going to end up falling, not him. And he's going to realize down the road that now in Yiddishkeit, we don't stand and go, but that's exactly what a person sometimes wants to do. Okay, maybe just me. But it's the idea of realizing, just focus on myself. Yeah, you got to be selfish sometimes. But when a person focuses on himself with happiness, he's going to find, by the way, so much how to give others, because he's really going to be happy. Then others are going to want to spend time with him, because happy people, they're a magnet. A lot more than other stuff. They're just a magnet, but who they're really happy. They're not trying to tell everybody else what to do. They're just happy. Rabbi Landau and Rashid, one last thing. Did he ever tell us so much what to do? Yeah. It was just him. You looked at him.
And you just shone. Probably the happiest person I've ever met.
That's what a role model is. A role model, what it means somebody who's a model, not that he's telling you what to do. Even before that, you just look at him.
Wow.
And that's really what it is. A person should just believe in himself. A person should believe himself, be proud of himself, but hold himself accountable.
Wow. I say, what a message to end off on. And I can't tell you how thankful I am, because this is just, it was so inspirational again to me to hear all these things and to remind myself, and you're reminding us all who we're meant to be. We have this tough kid in life, and it's up to us to choose that. I have to say a big thank you on Hashkafa, because it's almost 2:00 your time right now. It's almost 2 a.m. in the morning. So I really appreciate you coming on. I love you so much. This was just incredible. So thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, Bezrat Hashem, we should always to take on your messages.
Amen. And Avi, Bezrat Hashem, we're going to see you all and everybody here with Mashiach Tzidkenu. Amen.